Site promoting the availability of abortion there.
The site, launched by the state of California, lists abortion clinics, links to financial help and lodging, and it lets teenagers in other states know they don't need their parents' permission to get an abortion in the state. In a statement, Governor Gavin Newsom said abortion is legal, safe, and accessible in California. Whether or not you live here, know that we have your back. The announcement from Newsom coming the same day Republican South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham introduced a bill that would ban abortions nationwide after 15 weeks of pregnancy. Lisa Lacera, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show.
Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle.
Carol Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits.
Morning mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point.
And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101.
If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades.
One call gets all three.
671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Get ready to save up and chow down with Pacific Points. Now you can redeem Pacific Points for Uno Go wallet credits and enjoy huge savings on food delivery. Order from over 80 restaurants and have it delivered straight to your door. Continue earning points when you fuel up at Shell, shop at Foodies, purchase ITNE prepaid load, and pay your monthly ITNE bill. Then get ready to claim your rewards. Learn more at PacificPoints.com. Pacific Points. Do more, get more.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services that you want to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. You are listening to Tall Tales here on KUSG 93.3 FM, and that is the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights from the Constitution of the United States of America. We open up the program repeating that, reciting it as a reminder and as a call to action to remind ourselves that our Constitution affords us these rights. Welcome to the show. I want to thank everyone for joining in. I know it's a crazy wet day out there. I heard that you need a boat to navigate between Naval Station and Petey. So for those of you who are out there, please stay safe. Let's get to Jimmy Connie. It's another day of PSAs. This one's not too bad. It's kind of on point. It's to me, I think it reflects what we read the other day about our COVID regime, our COVID nation with the signs everywhere still, and our heightened sensibility to any kind of virus that comes to our island. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the I don't know what agency it is that puts out these things. Maybe DPHSS put out that dengue fever is still here on Guam. And
it was here before COVID.
Right, here before COVID. Then it kind of died down because it wasn't as sexy as COVID. And then, but I mean, it was always here, and it's back again. I think there was 1 or 2 cases they reported a couple days ago. I got to find that report again. But I just found it interesting that gets buried because that was top of the full front page news at one time, right before COVID hit. Right
And
before
that
the
was
pandemic.
because of the measures to eradicate mosquitoes in the areas where people had dengue fever.
Right. And so that's just, those are the things that we just always have to live with. And it's good to be aware. But let's get to what the PDN had put out for their op-ed, their Our View. And the big title headline is Mindful. Communicable infections identified. Maintain awareness. Be cautious. Prevent outbreaks. Slam your doors. Go into your room. Close your shades. And don't answer your phone call. Honk, honk.
Oh.
That's okay. The Department of Public Health and Social Services on Monday confirmed the first case of monkeypox in our community, along with the confirmation of a case of dengue fever. That wasn't even a postscript. That was right there in the paragraph. While these diseases are treatable, the message remains clear. Maintain situational awareness, Guam. The debates on how to handle these public health situations wage on between people who have different perspectives about how the government can and should intervene in matters involving community health. We believe there exists a delicate balance between personal responsibility and the need for government regulations to protect the community. The more responsibility we take for ourselves in the early days that a communicable disease is identified, the less need we will have for overreaching government control. I don't think we have a choice. Public health has done the most important thing they can do by informing us that a case of monkeypox has been identified in a traveler. The rest is up to us, our vigilance, and the steps we are willing to take to prevent an outbreak. Local public health officials have indicated that the identified monkeypox case is isolated and poses no risk for a public outbreak. This is important news that tells us that we have the time and ability to do what we can to prevent an outbreak. Don't worry about it. This is bound to happen. People are always bringing stuff into Guam, and this just happens to be an isolated case of monkeypox. And it's not like COVID. We observe and monitor all kinds of infectious diseases. I'm more worried right now about flu season coming up. Territorial epidemiologist Ann Klitzkie said during public health's press conference on Monday.
I thought it was already here. I had it.
Monkeypox?
Oh, no, the flu.
The flu. Oh, yeah, she's just worried about it more than monkeypox.
Well, there is a flu season, but that's not necessarily the case here on Guam.
I think she was just putting into perspective the red lights and the warning concerns and maybe the headlines.
Her worries.
Our island is finally on a positive trajectory towards economic recovery, with visitor industry leaders doing their utmost to market Destination Guam with our Asian source markets. Destination Guam was capitalized. Destination, of course, Guam is going to be capitalized. I wonder if is that the tagline now?
I wonder if if they're having to pay copyright on royalties for every time they use that.
Well, I said it with
phrase.
a small d, so there's no infringement there. This requires. Thank you, Joe. Now go back to sleep. You have a job to do tomorrow morning. This requires that we, as a community, work even harder to maintain an ensuring level of safety that tells prospective visitors Guam is doing all it can to prevent potential outbreaks of these viruses. We have layers of protection, quote, Lieutenant Governor Tenorio. No, wait, that's not it. That was from the COVID outbreak. Sorry, I was just reminiscing.
So if you don't die, you'll live.
Oh, man. He found that button. We must send a clear message to our tourism partners that our people are responsibly adapting to the precautions and guidelines meant to keep residents and visitors safe. And that was the op-ed. It's okay. It's nice. It's kind of a PSA, but it's also it kind of has a layer of, dare I say, propaganda in there. Because we cited the Guam Visitors Bureau and our tourism industry, and it's almost like we have to convince ourselves so that we convince the tourists that we have layers of protection. You know, we had the same kind of opening. I'm not saying the monkeypox is going to be the same outbreak that COVID was, but we had the same kind of rhetoric when COVID was first announced. That don't worry, we're good. We just need to protect ourselves. But yeah, so that's this op-ed, I guess, is just, it kind of lacks a bite. It just kind of more of a yeehaw.
You wanted teeth?
I wanted teeth. I wanted some examples of why we should be concerned about monkeypox. I want to see examples of what it is versus COVID, since we're still in we're in the post-pandemic era, where how do we navigate the next fearful virus?
Well, I thought monkeypox is more like an STD.
Well, exactly, but it's still making headlines as if it's the next thing, right? We always have this next thing going on. When after dengue fever, COVID became the next thing until it became the thing. What I'm saying is it's interesting. What are we going to have next? Is it going to have the same narrative? Is it going to have the same rhetoric? Or we're just saying, wash your hands, brush your teeth, don't forget to scrub behind your ears type thing. You know, basic hygiene. I think maybe that should be the op-ed.
I
don't know.
Personally, I'm more concerned about bioterrorism or state-sponsored, testing of pathologic whatever. You know.
I know what you're saying. That's yeah. Those are fearful things too. I don't know. Again, I'm going to repeat something that when we had a Korean bomb scare years ago, and I went out asking Manumco and youths about their mindset and how they're dealing with it. The youth are like, we're scared, we don't know what's going to happen, this is fearful, and the Manumco were like, I made my peace with God. So we're good, no matter what happens. And I'm not saying be apathetic towards anything, just be mindful of things, you know. Like they said, be mindful. Yeah, so that's it. Let's get to the card. And on the card, as always, we have Paul Zerzan versus systemic racism. I don't have Bob's rice thing here, but everybody knows that red rice is orange, and orange is the new red. And Paul Zerzan had to point out that we keep calling it something that it isn't. And the issue is not about red rice. It's not about achote. It's not about what we call the color red in Chamorro or the color orange. It's because of a narrative. And if you don't follow the narrative, then you get pushback like Paul Zerzan did the next day after he wrote that very small letter that offended everyone except for KFC. And it turned into a cultural conversation that was very interesting. It went beyond the rice, it went beyond the island of Guam, and it became something of a narrative. That's why it's called systemic racism. And that's all I'm going to say on it today, because we will always talk about it every day, because it's going to be here with us for a long time, I think. Only because we're going to bring it up all the time.
Yes.
And it should, because we need to be able to laugh at it. We should point it out and mock it as much as possible, because when we take it too seriously, we get the next day outrage of people going out there, reporters going out there and asking people, what do you feel about this colonizer calling your red rice orange? Outrageous. Everyone knows it's red. Let's move on. Public Law 3634. This one is going to be, let me catch it. It's going to hit home a little bit. And when I say by home, I mean outside the home. I didn't see, I read through all the announcements of meetings that were in the paper, both the Post and the PDN, that I could see. And the only thing that I found is Career Tech High Academy Charter School. Now, they have Been called out before, and I just have to put full disclosure. My son is going to that school, so this is constructive criticism for anyone listening.
Okay.
They have got the old business down good because they have something there that states that there's old business. They have the new business down packed now because they have new business listed, or if they didn't have none, I hope they would have put none. But then they have executive session and crickets, nothing after that. And I want to get back with Bob and search more on Public Law 3634 on putting these announcements on what executive session means and how he deems that as a violation of the public law. So those are the things that's something that's to get pointed out. They're getting there, but executive session, just stating that, is not enough.
I saw a funny in the paper today.
Mm-hmm.
It was a headline.
Okay.
It's announcing the story itself comes from Reuters, but I wonder if someone local is the one who wrote the headline. It's talking about the premier of China visiting Kazakhstan next week, and another country out there, Kazakhstan. But the headline is that he's going overseas. But he doesn't cross a sea. He has to cross a desert or two, but he doesn't. There's certainly no seas out there to cross. And they just put that in there just as if any foreign leader any leader of a country who leaves his country has to cross an ocean.
Maybe he's going the long way. He didn't get a direct flight.
The whole article is about
layovers. I don't know.
About the Road and Belt Initiative.
Oh, yeah,
but it's like directly adjacent to his own territory. So it's like, what?
Yeah, he just had to cross the border. That's all. Unfortunately, that's not on the card today, Daryl.
No. But
I don't think it will be. But good. Thank you for pointing that out. But what I do have on today is McNich versus write-in candidates. I think that just came out a little earlier today. We have Governor LG versus Speaker Terlahi. I'm going to do, is this today? Yeah, this is today. Let me just reference something that I have here.
And if it's McNinch, it would have to be versus write-in candidates.
Yes.
Would it be part two?
No, this is kind of it's kind of a part two, kind of an extension, just a little bit more focused on what he said because he has a letter to the editor that he submitted. I have Speaker Terlahi versus Governor LG. I switched it there. I'm going to do Brandon, otherwise known as the POTUS, versus inflation. Casil versus 911.
9/11.
The date.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. 9/11. The date in September, not the date in 2001. But it's kind of correlated. Brandon versus the real 9/11. Hopefully we'll get to that. And we'll hopefully get to choices versus abortion. Choices versus abortion. And this is a little bit on that film Life Mark. We're going to talk about a little bit Sabork. It still playing. Going to stop playing tomorrow. Thursday's going to be the last day. And then some other, let's see if I have anything else on here. And that's it. But, so let's get to the first one. Let's just start off with, actually what I want to do is get to Casil versus 9/11. This started out as a Facebook post I saw, and it turned into an article. And I think it's kind of funny. This is an article in the Post. Cabinet member Camacho at a 9/11 fundraiser insensitive. And they have the mugshot of Lucia Casil on there, who is the one who filed the grievance. Well, I don't know if she filed it officially, but there were nearly 3,000 American lives lost 21 years ago during the 9/11 terrorist attacks caused by the Islamic extremist group Al-Qaeda. And there's your history on 2001. The Camacho Ada gubernatorial campaign held a 2K run walk fundraiser, which coincided with the anniversary of the attacks, Sunday dubbed Hasoyan Zan Onra. Did I say that right? Zan Onra, which translates from Chamorro to remember and honor in English. A cabinet member of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration, who at the time lived near the World Trade Center, the epicenter of the terrorist attack in New York City, objected to the campaign fundraiser in an interview with the Guam Daily Post and said the event was heartless. Now I just want to point out that the credibility of her words hinges on at one time lived near the World Trade Center, the epicenter of the terrorist attack in New York City. So I'm going to cite my credentials and say I lived in the state north of New York City in Connecticut at the time, and I too experienced 9/11 in 2001 in Connecticut, nearby. So that's the reason why I'm able to opine on this. Okay, let's get that out of the way. Now that we put our references out there that we can talk about this.
Yeah, but you're not a cabinet member.
I understand, but that's if we're going to say that's why we're able to complain about this, then I'm going to say that's why we're able to respond to it. And let's see if Camacho and Ada are not allowed to mention 9/11 when they do an event on 9/11. I wonder if they can do an event on 8/11. And still, anyways, a cabinet member of let me go. Initially, said Casil, I was like, it's a fundraiser. Casil, who was supporting the re-election bid of the incumbent governor and lieutenant governor, the opponents of Camacho Ada in the November general election. Again, I don't know if I'm going to be criticizing this article more than I'm criticizing the complaint, but I just find it funny that they point out these obvious things that are in here. Is this more of a let's pick a fight type of article?
I think it's more like we have a half a page to fill. Here we go.
No, it does. And they filled it, so I'm going to fill some time. Quote, it is a fundraiser for the victims and families or first responders, and it didn't say. And then I tried calling this number Saturday to find out more information, and there was no answer. So I reached out to some Republican friends over at the legislature, and they had confirmed that it wasn't a charity event and that it was a campaign fundraiser. At the legislature, not the campaign, not from anywhere else.
But
from
people who knew.
And they were Republicans, too.
Well, at least she reached out.
At least she reached out, right. And then, invoking the dark day in American history while receiving campaign contributions didn't sit right with Casil. It was just kind of upsetting that any organization would try to capitalize on this tragedy, whether it's Republicans or any other organization. Had it been like a charitable fundraiser, I would have been happy to donate, she told the Post. Layers of protection. I think anyone would have been happy to donate if the funds are going to a good cause, but it was very deceptive and just, I think, inappropriate and insensitive and disrespectful that they would have like a Republican fundraiser for 9/11 with none of the funds going to any of the family or first responders. And that was my sentiment.
Sounds like an opinion to me.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a cabinet member, the director of the Hagatnya Restoration Redevelopment. Yeah, it's a long term. Okay.
I've seen the movie.
Yeah. Let's see here. The Camacho Ada campaign provided the Post a statement regarding its 9/11 run walk, which said it was one of many events. Oh, and I had to add. Let me see something. Sometimes the printer covers things. It was one of the many events held on Guam to honor the victims from the September 11th, 2001 attacks on America. Continues with, officials did not specify exactly what the donations funded or will fund, but shared that money received supported every aspect of the event and noted 400 island residents came out to support this community event. Although the Post sought clarification, the campaign never explicitly confirmed that funds will be donated to a charitable cause, whether related or not to 9/11 victims. Sil told the Post that she would commend the Camacho Ada campaign team if it was an actual charity event and not just a fundraiser for the campaign. And it goes on to talk about what they should or should not have done. And then a repetition. Oh, here, the last paragraphs, and this wasn't in the print edition. The last paragraphs qualify Casil as a cabinet member. Casil, currently serving as executive director of the Hagatna Restoration and Redevelopment Authority, explained that instead of hosting a fundraiser, the anniversary of 9/11 should have had a fashion show. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. No, that's my mistake. No. It should have been a time of unification. There we go. I don't know who snuck that in. And then more clarification of why she's qualified to talk about this. At the time, I lived about 10 blocks away from Ground Zero. And having lived in New York at the time and gone through that tremendous variance of watching the first call and living so close to the towers in time, she said, lots of remembrances, vigils and things like that, which are appropriate. I think it's a time when we should come together, just like the whole city of New York came together after this tragedy to support each other. Yep. That was back in 2001, 2, 3. I remember doing all this stuff, maybe all the way up until 2016. Then we became divided and 9/11 didn't matter anymore. But this is my opinion. There is an optics issue when you do something that's a part of something that people remember, right? Especially when it's a horrific event that happened, whether it's 9/11, whether it's the let's say the Challenger tragedy, right, when the shuttle blew up,
right?
Anything, any time that lives are lost, and especially something like 9/11, where it actually did unify the country. It unified the country against a common enemy, an enemy that was a huge threat to the United States and our way of life. At this time, I don't think the immediacy of sensitivity is there as much as it is. This wasn't like a comedy event, right, or something that would be insensitive. This was a way to honor what the funds were for. I'm not sure. Usually with the run walk, a couple of funds are used for administrative purposes, right? And then
just the cost of the event.
The cost of the event, and then maybe some of it goes to the campaign. Maybe is that what it said on the poster board? This is what I do know: the Camacho Ada campaign, especially Felix Camacho, he does a lot of charitable work. So I don't question his integrity when it comes to that. I mean, that his faith life is a part of doing that kind of works of mercy, right? As we say in our Catholic Church, but it just kind of feels weird when a cabinet member puts out something like this, and then a news agency brings it up, and of course we're talking about it on the radio. But I just wanted to point that out.
It's It's campaign time.
Exactly.
And it's a campaign event.
Yeah.
And a member of the opposing candidates.
Can't they find just like a regular person to complain about it and put it out there? A man on the street, I think, would have more credence than somebody who was a appointed director.
No, but take, for example, anybody who has been personally traumatized by continues to bear the scars of some kind of action that affected everyone, nationally to some extent, but bore it personally. That person would have standing to get up and say something about it. But the other thing,
maybe at dinner.
But for the Post to bring this all up,
right,
they could have also asked what other events referencing 9/11 were held on Guam that day. And would you like to point out the lack of them?
That's a good point.
By the administration? Would you like to point out the lack of did Adelup issue a call to public remembrance? Did the church issue a call for public remembrance from the pulpit. You know what I mean?
And that's the problem with these kind of woke complaints is like we're supposed to cater to people's personal grievances, and she's not talking on anyone's behalf but her own.
No, that's right. It's her opinion, and the newspaper picks it up and fills space with it.
Right. Yeah.
And so do we.
And so do
because
we.
It's silly.
Right. But if we want to go to some more silliness, we can. I mean, 9/11, the event was a horrific thing. It was a very confusing time also. I actually watched it live, but I was at home. I wasn't at work that morning. But we can talk about it later on. Right now, let's go to a break. You're listening to Tall Tales here on KUSG 93.3 FM. My name is Jose Martinez. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training every morning on The Ray Gibson Show.
Does your physical workplace have an impact on the mental outlook of workers, their overall job satisfaction, and their productivity? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll talk about that and what you might want to do about it. It's The Extra Point here on 93.3.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point by Jerry Roberts at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts on The Ray Gibson Show on 93.3 The Point.
We're already Pica's best radio station, but we're always looking for ways to be even better. Announcing The Point on Alexa. In addition to our FM and HD radio feeds, our incredible app, informative website, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live, you can now tell Alexa to stream The Point. And your smart speaker will start playing whatever we're saying. News and views 24/7 with your 4-word command. Alexa, stream The Point.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
And welcome back. Tall Tales here on 93.3 FM. Do not adjust your sets, your cameras. I'm adjusting mine right now. My name is Jose Martinez. Bob Klitzkie is on a sabbatical, a well-deserved and scheduled. This is not an emergency. I want to wish him well on his restful visit to wherever he's at and wherever he's going. And he will be back soon in a number of weeks. But right now, you guys have me for the meantime. And I want to thank you for welcoming me in your cars, in your homes, and on your computers.
We need to get a new banner for you here.
Yeah, I am not Bob Klitzkie. And it's an honor to have the banner below me, though. I want to move on to McNitch. Writing candidates should be McNitch versus writing candidates. Writing candidates should be required to report activities, finances, and especially those running for AG. This past week, there was an announcement that a person wanted to vie for the Attorney General position as a writing candidate. I am not a big fan of write-in efforts. If a person is a serious candidate, vie for the position and file the right paperwork with the Guam Election Commission. Every candidate for office should file a local court clearance, a federal court clearance, and a police clearance. Every candidate should file financial disclosure forms and campaign fundraising forms. Anyone running for office should file paperwork if they receive money. In the case of the Attorney General, a person also has to meet certain specific requirements to be eligible for the office. While I am not going to go into detail here, the Guam Election Commission conducts a formal review of the person to make sure that they can actually run for this position. The requirements for Attorney General are far beyond age, citizenship, residency, and no criminal record. The Commission qualifies persons to run for this office. A person should not be allowed to skirt the reporting requirements and paperwork as a writing candidate. Writing candidates should be required to report on their activities and show their financial records, just like everyone else. In the case of the Attorney General position, there are specific fiduciary responsibilities that make this point even more important. The law covering the Attorney General's election was changed in 2006, and can be found in the Guam Code at 5 GCA 30101B. If you are a policy student or just interested in these questions, you can pull up the committee report for Public Law 128 on the Guam Legislature website and take a look at it. The legislative intent is very clear in Section 1. The Guam Legislature wanted the Attorney General elected by a majority. In 2006, the big question between and among the senators was, should the Attorney General have a runoff election if there isn't a majority at the general election, or should a primary election narrow the names down to 2 candidates at the primary election stage? The cost was lower to simply use the primary, so that was the option chosen. The primary election should narrow the field to 2 Attorney General candidates. These 2 then face off at the general election. Allowing a write-in would be allowing a 3rd candidate to compete for the position, and I don't believe this is what the law or the legislature intended. They wanted 2 candidates only on the general election ballot. The big concern in 2006 was for a majority of the people to elect the Attorney General, just like the governor and delegate. The election requirements in the Guam Code for Attorney General are specific. I don't think writing candidates at the general election were part of the legislative intent in 2006. The clear intent was to only allow 2 candidates to proceed past the primary. I sent a letter last week to the Guam Election Commission on this concern. A nonsense person then sent text that claimed he was running as an AG writing because the political parties put him up to it. Both parties have denied this. This person also made a false claim that I had conducted a poll that placed him in the lead. At the September 13 meeting of the Guam Election Commission, they approved a ballot format allowing a write-in space for this office. I believe the commission should act as fiduciaries and reconsider. It is important. All right, so Ron McNitch has put in his hat in officially as a letter to the editor. I think the other candidate, the writing candidate, has put in his. I don't know if there's been a letter to the editor, but there's been much earned media on this. But it is something I think the Guam Election Commission ought to clarify so that we can move beyond this. And can you imagine if there is so much controversy surrounding this that we don't have an Attorney General in January, or there's going to be questions? Are we going to go back to the election was stolen? and there always be something that's going to be, and if somebody is chosen as the Attorney General, are they going to be considered legitimate because of this controversy? And these are the kind of things that need to be clarified. And again, I know Bob Klitzkie has been calling, a lot of people have been calling for the legislature to go through the code book and laws and weed out laws that are not necessary anymore to clarify stuff.
I harp
and
on
same
this
with GEC.
every.
You do. I remember you're one of the.
Because that's what I thought that.
It's bloated.
Well, every majority senator has a committee, and that committee has oversight on agencies and all the laws that apply to the agency. And the agencies themselves know what confusion there is and how to do their job because of the bloat. And so there is no lack of opportunity to sit down and discuss it, no matter who's governor, no matter who the chair is, and then put staff to work on it, to do just common sense stuff, which is like, get rid of things that don't, that conflict, that confuse, that make it difficult for judgment calls by people who are in the government, well-meaning, trying to do their jobs. And there's just a lack of interest.
And because people can go back and forth and interpret the law they want it, how they want to interpret it, especially, that's what a lawyer's job is, an attorney's job is. The only thing I ask of Ron McNitch is that he did say he served on the GEC for 2 terms, I think it was. But when was that? And was it during the time that these laws and practices were put into place?
Ron was in a position when he was on the board to vote on a question. Lawyers will argue Either one or the other
But my
side of the
question
law,
leads
and
to
judges,
the
judges
discussion at
and
the time and
courts
the intent.
juries will decide.
The intent. It's like saying, I was in session with the legislature at the time that this law was written, and this is what we discussed. If people have a question on how certain laws came to be, so was it if the attorney general position or candidacy was discussed when talking about writing candidates, it ought to have been the language in the law or whatever.
Generally, those discussions are not documented in the committee reports, sadly. Even discussions on the floor are not indexed, so it's difficult.
Those should be public record as well.
They are.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you access?
Yeah, this is just a little tangent. I've heard some have been deleted, but that's another subject for another time.
Well, it's if you don't put good people on routines and mundane work like filing or filing. It's whether it's electronic filing or paper filing.
Right.
Then you're not going to be able to retrieve things.
Okay, we have a couple of callers here in the green room. Senor Dueñas, I want to get to this other caller before I get to you. Please don't go away. We have a repeat with Repeat on line 2. Go quickly.
Yeah, well, Ron McNinch is asking the Election Commission to break the law because the law is clear. The ballot must have a write-in. The law from that is a 2012 law. And then he's wrong about having a runoff. The statute says most votes, not majority votes. So the statute is just a plurality. We saw that with the last election, that races were won with the plurality. That's the same thing for the AG. So whoever gets the most votes will be the winner, right? Now, his article has two patently false and wrong things. First of all, I never said that the two gubernatorial campaigns put me up to this. I said that they don't want Doug to win, so that's what prompted me to jump in, right? Because if they don't want Doug to win, I don't want Lieben to win, then I got to go in and I got to win it myself.
Pete, who is they?
The people that contacted me. Then the second thing that is...
So they're not the campaigns then?
That's what they represented to me, that they're part of the campaign. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Well, that's the clarification you're trying to make. I'm just trying to be the opposing opposing counsel here.
He's saying that the campaigns put me up to it. No, he has a reading comprehension problem if that's what he's saying. And the other thing is he's saying that I said that he did a poll and it put me out front. No, I never said that. Where did the poll never came out of my mouth. The word poll never came out of my mouth. What it is I said that, I was joking with Ray. I said, Ron McNinch is always wrong. And he goes, oh, that's too bad because he said you'd win if you were the AG. That's what happened.
Okay.
I
see.
And I said,
yeah.
well, so what he's talking about, he has a hearing problem and a reading comprehension problem. And you know what, Jose? You can't spell wrong without R-O-N.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, there is an agenda put into the newspaper for the Guam Election Commission for the next meeting on the 21st. I'm not sure which old business here. They have primary election and B, ballot measures. So I'm assuming that's going to be discussed there. I'm not seeing anything else.
Yeah, but the law, he's asking the commission to break the law.
Right.
The law says there shall be.
Ultimately, no matter how many letters are written or how many posts are on Facebook, it's up to the meetings and these commission meetings to decide. And I think I don't know what more can be said about this. I mean, only because McNinch's letter is going to be published tomorrow. I just wanted to put it out there already and give you equal time. I think you both have good standing on the interpretations, but it's ultimately going to be up to the GEC. Yes?
Yeah, but his is a faulty. That's not the way the law works. And that's the problem with Ron is he lives in his mind and he thinks that's the way the world works. But he needs to come outside sometimes and come into the real world.
So where can we send in campaign funds for Peter Santos?
Oh, I've said this before.
No funding.
When Doug first ran, he had the same idea I had. I am not accepting any campaign.
Oh, okay. Okay. That's
So,
right. He
the
did
worry,
do that.
The worry that anybody has that, I could be accepting campaign funds as a write-in and not having to report. Yeah, just wait for my report, for the zero report.
No problem. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thanks for calling in, and most likely this will probably be brought up in the next couple of weeks as well. But we haven't heard much about what's coming out of the AG's office, but that's going to be for another subject.
Well, there's 2 planned forums, and I'm officially invited, so I will be at those forums.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
You did mention that yesterday. That's going to be exciting. That's going to be really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, awesome. Thanks very much. We're going to go to a break, and then Mr. Mal Duenas, will come right to you as soon as we're done paying these bills. Don't go away. You're listening to Tall Tales on KUSG 93.3 FM.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus to naktak, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Half a day. This is Clara Manglona from Security Title. A power of attorney can be a useful tool in a real estate transaction, but if abused, it can result in devastating loss. Choosing your representative should be done with the utmost care and should be very specific about the powers being granted. To mitigate loss, the team at Security Title confirms with the owner prior to using a power of attorney to sell the property. Each transaction is unique. Let the professionals at Security Title use our experience to facilitate a secure closing. We are here to help.
And we are back here on Tall Tales. My name is Jose Martinez, and you are listening to 93.3 FM KUSG. I want to thank you for tuning in. We have a caller, Mr. Duenas. I don't think I've met you before. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Buenas enough today, Jose. Thank you for allowing me to go online.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, since the topic is on politics and the issues that are coming up, I really would like to see some good ethics and honesty in some of our leadership, because if you really want to dig deep enough, I know that they stole the election from Donald Trump. It's hatred and bitterness and a lot of the psychosis thinking that are confusing the norm and the crowd. Mm-hmm. But let's bring it home to just here in Guam, and what my concern is, because so many people come to me with their concern of power utilities being so expensive, and since I've been with the power system for a long time, I've worked at every department in the Guam Power and GPA. Starting from I'm a registered lineman. Oh. I worked in Cabras 1, Cabras 2. When they built the new generators, Cabras 3 and 4, I was there. I went to Italy with the director to purchase and to be trained with this gas turbine. But when this power plant blew up, there's millions and millions of dollars that was wasted. And a lot of times we just hear that, hey, it's under investigation, and then nothing happens. But then we pass the buck over to the regular people, and we increase the power, and it's so expensive today when there is so much waste. So we gathered together with some 6-7 supervisors that are retired, and we spoke about this, and it's time to stand up and stand for justice for the people of Guam. And we want to iron out the different ways and the continued things that's taking place inside the power system, because we see people that are in CCU representing Guam for decades and decades, but we never hear them fight for the island of Guam. So that's why I decided to stand up and hear for the people of Guam, and that's why my name went into that candidate for CCU for this year, number 5. I'm not
okay.
a politician. I'm not a politician, my friend, and I don't campaign, and I'm on my own. But I'm telling you, I'm a fighter. I represented the Guam Army National Guard as a Soldier of the Year to compete, and I came in. The only reason why I didn't come in first place is because the lady that was chosen was prettier than I was, but I beat her in all the points. But nonetheless, my friend, I am here to fight for the people of Guam, for justice, and also for ethics. And if you want to check my ethics out, as an ordained, I am in the international church. I have a card that is an ordination. So currently I teach the language and the culture because I like to protect the culture, but I really would like to go to bat for this utility expenses, and that's why it is my concern that if we can rally on this and stop the expenses. Some people are making 6-digit numbers, and we still pay for their trucks over $100,000 to drive around $100,000 trucks. We do not need those kind of extras for our leaders. They're already making a lot of money. We don't need to be buying trucks just for them to drive around and drive home.
Right.
We can understand the 24-hour, emergency crew and things like this, but a lot of waste, and there's so many ways, my friend, that I was there when we had a big oil spill in Tangisun Power Plant.
Oh boy!
And when we spilled that entire chemical out, they call it the red tide, and they thought it was an omen from heaven that the tide turned red. No, those are chemicals that killed many people. That was bringing out algae, but not one person was fired. In which the whole entire crew should be responsible, including superintendents that are responsible for a lot of this waste and continued waste that the people of Guam are hurting so much for utilities, and that's why I like to fight for ethics and for honesty. Too many people are talking and keep talking, but yet behind the scene they're just talking for themselves. And so as we see a lot of people, they own gas station, and that's why they run for CCU and they own this, but it's all integrated selfishness. I like to see people stand up for the people of Guam in general, and that's why I'm calling, and it's time for me to voice my opinion in this area. So
Very good. Well, thank you, Mel, for calling in and letting us know your candidacy and your intent. You sound like very passionate. I apologize that I am not familiar with your name. I'm sure lots of people are, because Daryl's here nodding his head. He knows who you are, and I wish you the best.
Well, thank you.
All right. Have a great day. Thank you for calling in.
Thank you for both.
You're welcome. You too. Johnny Utah in the green room. I haven't heard from you in a while. How you doing?
I'm doing good. So, today we had a horrible day with our stock markets, and I'm sure Guam is aware of it, that it was a really bad day. And at the same time that we had this horrible day with our stock markets, that was absolutely overwhelming evidence of, the recession and the inflation rate that we're heading into a really dark time. Joe Biden and the Democrats were having a picnic party on.
Was that interesting? Talk about bad optics.
Yeah, talk about bad optics. So the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's black and white. It's plain as day. It's obvious that there's a problem there. And the reason I want to bring that up, of this objectivity, is that you asked a question of Bola Pete, that, if I'm saying that right, exactly what I was asking while you were talking to him, which was, who is they? Who is they? Who are you talking about? Who is exactly that is telling you this? And, I think it's pretty obvious, especially me being on the outside looking in at and I am a study of Guam politics. I think you and Judge Bob and everyone, even Daryl, would acknowledge that. Looking in at the politics of Guam, one thing I can say about Ron McNich is that he's neutral. He does not pick a side. You can pick his brain all day long. I was listening to Troy the other day after the post-debate. You know, Ron McNitz was giving a legit political analysis. I wanted to hear him say more about the Republicans. I was being critical of Ron.
We got less than 40 seconds here, Johnny. Let's wrap it up where you can.
My point here is that Repeat is up to no good. Then I think that he is doing this to get Levin reelected, and it has something to do with the Democrats, because this is how the Democrats operate, and it doesn't make any sense for what he is doing. And he's attacking Ron McNitz on here. You know, I mean, it's starting to sound pretty dirty. It's really starting to sound pretty dirty.
There's lots of that going around, of questions of the intent, and you know, that's part of the process. And I absolutely hear you're concerned. I've heard a lot of that also. But thanks for calling in, Johnny. Looking forward to hearing from you soon. Take care. You're listening to
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3. Fox News. Tuesday's Consumer Price Index, released by the Commerce Department, worse than the analysts predicted, showing prices rose again last month.
Core inflation shot up to 6.3% in August, up from 5.9% in July, with eggs still up nearly 40%, coffee up 17.6%, and milk up 17%.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich at the White House, where despite the Dow's worst loss in more than 2 years, President Biden held a celebration for the passage of the spending bill, which Democrats had labeled the Inflation Reduction Act.
We've achieved more bipartisan agreement in these nearly 2 years in my presidency than anyone thought was even remotely possible when I entered office.
The inflation report makes it likely another large interest rate from the Fed is coming. The Dow dropped 1,276 points on Tuesday. The federal judge who approved the search warrant for former President Trump's home has unsealed more of the FBI's affidavit requesting it, showing, among other things, that a grand jury had subpoenaed footage from the Mar-a-Lago surveillance cameras in late June. The Trump legal team says they provided that footage in early July. The FBI has now seized the cell phone of another Trump supporter. MyPillow's Mike Lindell says he was swarmed by FBI agents at a fast food restaurant at his hometown in Minnesota who demanded he hand over his cell phone. Lindell says on his attorney's advice he complied. He has in the past questioned the results of the 2020 presidential election. An explosion causing a partial evacuation at Boston's Northeastern University last night. A hard-sided shipping case delivered there exploded when a school employee opened it.
I will tell you that the scene is secure and that the investigation is ongoing.
Boston's police superintendent Felipe Colon says the employee's injuries were minor, but they are watching for possible additional packages. The FBI has joined the investigation. America is listening to Fox News.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tenactac, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
Global health experts are raising concerns about watching the polio cases in the United States.
The World Health Organization is placing the U.S. on the list of nations with circulating vaccine-derived polio virus. This is due to traces of polio found in wastewater in Rockland County, New York, outside New York City, matching virus strains found in wastewater in London and in Jerusalem. The U.S. Centers for Disease Control links these samples to the weakened virus in oral polio vaccine given overseas and not in the U.S. The CDC still recommends children and adults be vaccinated against polio, which is a severely physically debilitating disease with no cure. Eben Brown, Fox News.
Queen Elizabeth II's coffin has returned to Buckingham Palace. The British are preparing for millions of people to travel to central London to pay their respects to the late monarch who died last week. Her casket will be placed in Westminster Hall to lie in state until Monday, September 19th, which is the day of her funeral. The prosecutor whose investigation led to the impeachment of former President Bill Clinton in 1998, Ken Starr, has died following complications from surgery. He was 76. A commission set up to consider name changes at some U.S. military installations has completed its work.
The Naming Commission is recommending the Confederate Memorial at Arlington National Cemetery be dismantled. They also want the Navy ship, the USS Chancellorsville, renamed because the Battle of Chancellorsville was considered one of the Confederate Army's greatest victories. Also on the commission's renaming list, ships, base roads, buildings, and more for about 1,100 assets across the military. The total cost for all the commission's recommendations made this year is nearly $62.5 million. In Washington, Jill Nato, Fox News.
And I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
Are you looking for a new place to hang out with your friends? Let's go along the sidelines at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Located at 154 Iriarte Road, Unit 4 and 5 in Tamuning behind Royal Bigs. Sidelines, a hidden gem with nothing but great things to offer. Great atmosphere, great food, top shelf drinks, and a great team. What are we waiting for? Let the fun begin at Sidelines Bar and Grill. Open daily from 3 p.m. to 2 a.m. See you there.
Choice Broadcasting introduces their unbeatable lineup of morning show. Hands down winners of Guam's morning radio battle. Daryl Lizama grooves his way through Boss 104 playing Guam's favorite classic hits. Morning Mouth Ray Gibson shakes the cage on 93.3 The Point. And now, we are proud to announce the Morning Blender with Kyle Mandapat, mixing it up at sunrise on Star 101. If you're an advertiser trying to reach the most valuable ears, we've got the shows that listeners have been tuning into for decades. One call gets all three. 671-888-7346. That's 888-REIO.
Listen to The Point anytime, anywhere on Odyssey. Odyssey is your new audio home for all the music, news, sports, and podcasts that matter to you. Find your favorite stations like The Point and discover more. Music stations, local and trusted news sources, sports talk and team coverage, plus today's biggest podcasts. Find it all on the Odyssey app. AUDACY.
That was the big halftime show featuring our Rogues Gallery. I'm a Tailgater t-shirt is what pulls them all together. That's what makes them all guilty. Guilty as charged. You too can get your I'm a Tailgater t-shirt by going on to thepoint.gu and looking for the beard pointing to the t-shirt and pointing to the link that'll get you to your shirt. They come in all sizes from very small to, I believe, 3X or maybe 4X is the largest. Could be there. And it is a local company that's making them. They make them to order. They're not in stock. But if we do get a higher demand, because they are selling quite a few of them, lots of people haven't taken a selfie of their shirt yet and sent it to the Points WhatsApp number, which is 671-797-8255. If you take a picture of you in your I'm a Tailgater t-shirt, we'll put it in the Rogues Gallery and we'll play it all over for international listening audience. You listen to Tall Tales right now. My name is Jose Martinez, and I want to go on to this this next article. It has to do with the budget. It's always fun when the legislature and the executive branch go head to head, because it's what they should be doing. I'm laughing because Daryl's dancing in the booth over here.
Can't help myself.
It's a lot of fun. They're talking about the budget that the legislature recently just passed. There was some shade thrown in the legislature, so shade was thrown back. But we'll get into that right after we take this call from our Carl, the most dangerous man on radio. Good afternoon, our Carl. Welcome back.
Hey, thank you, Jose. Yeah, I was just telling Daryl, I enjoy your banter back and forth. You guys have pretty good chemistry, and just enjoying the show. And not quite at Bob's level yet, but you guys are.
That's a tall order, no pun intended.
Yeah.
The two of us together are not as tall as Bob.
No.
Yeah, that is true. Hey, yeah, I just wanted to comment about the situation between Peter J. Santos and Ron McNinch.
Mm-hmm.
I just like to make a couple of
Go for
observations.
The floor is yours.
One of them is that Peter, and I like his contribution to the show. I genuinely like many of his comments, and I find them thought-provoking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but with this issue, I think we've got a little bit of a disagreement of views. But I enjoy listening to Pete because he does bring up some interesting thoughts, makes me think, and sometimes he makes me laugh. But I noticed he's just got this thing with Ron McNinch. I don't know what Ron did to tweak him in such a way, but I would classify what Peter has as Ron derangement syndrome.
Oh, boy.
Well, you know, just listen to the comment where he said, well, McNinch is always wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even Adolf Hitler was right sometimes. Even Trump is right sometimes, you know. So I just find that...
Them's are fighting words, Carl.
What's that?
Them's are fighting words.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. You know, once someone starts tossing around, you know, all the time, name-calling and those kind of attacks, to me, it takes away from their argument.
Mm-hmm.
It just completely distracts from what the point they're trying to make, at least in my view. You know, I just think it weakens their argument significantly, especially when I see it as a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
I start to notice, well, at least in this one area, there's maybe I need to, you know, kind of carefully weigh what is being said, because this is not a rational view. I don't know what happened, you know, what Ron McNinch did to tweak Peter, but as far as Ron McNinch issues and stuff, he's just, you know, I just have to look at it very carefully and weigh things out, because it's not being stated, you know, completely rationally. I mean, to say someone is always wrong, that's impossible.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I noticed when Peter said two people, or, you know, maybe more, but representatives, he was told from the Republican Party and the Democrat Party had contacted him and said they did not want Doug Moylan to be in office. If someone, put yourself in Peter's place, and someone contact you, you know, we're kind of iconoclastic, you and I and Darryl, you know, we like to see the boat rocked. If someone came to me, if I was in Peter's place from each camp and said, we do not want this guy in the AG position, I don't know about your reaction, but my reaction is that's my man.
That's actually exactly that's actually exactly what I was, I had that on the card on Monday because Candid had put out they had put out that assertion on their own website. They cited Pete Santos's words about two people, representatives of both camps reached out to him. And in my mind, I was like, if neither camp wants him, that's the person we want as the AG. And it's not that they're going to cause controversies, that we shouldn't have someone who's going to be a yes man. Now, I'm not saying that that's what Levin Camacho is or who he is, but I'm saying if it's specifically they don't want him, then maybe we do want him. And I have no idea what Doug Moylan's record is because I wasn't here when he was an attorney general. But I'm with you right there, Carl.
Yeah, and I've commented to Peter online, in our back and forth that what is it? I was commenting to him about his comments about when Doug Moylan was in office, there was a lot of stress in the office. And I wasn't there, so I don't know. I'm taking his word at it, but understandably, I think Doug is a kind of a guy that wants results. And we had bosses like that. They put the heat on. We've got to get this done. I want this done by this date. This has to, be done in a certain way. Bosses that are performance-oriented, it's stressful. But the kind of stress that we see now in the Camacho AG office is what I take to be stress from people who are just demotivated, disheartened, because they're not being, it's kind of evolved like into a catch and release system. People commit crimes, they get taken into court, and Peter was on the other side of this. He freely admitted, that my cases are easy to win under Camacho,
And to Peter's credit, he's not the only one that said that. As far as I think the word is demoralization in the office. There was somebody who did resign and said something in so many words to the press.
Yeah, which to me is a good sign. It means there are people who are actually want to do a good job, and they're not being permitted or they're being hindered from doing the job they were hired to do. So them resigning, to me, is a little hopeful. But that's my one of my takes on it is that he criticized Moylan for having that situation, but I think there were two different types of stress. And
he was also the inaugural candidate.
A good kind of stress. It was a demanding atmosphere, just like Apple Computer. Steve Jobs was renowned for being just a brutal boss. But he did it because he wanted results. He was on a mission. And I also made the observation that Peter, to me, the more rational way of looking at this would be to say, I don't like the present AG in office, and Moylan had come within striking range of catching and passing Camacho, 400 plus votes. That's not much, considering that Moylan had not been doing a lot of aggressive campaigning. I would have said, I'm going to get in and I'm going to push this, help do whatever I can to get this guy over the finish line, because he is making the right people nervous. Those are the people, the party bosses and such. If they're getting nervous, that's a good thing. So anyway, that would be my take on it. I think, I'm not in Peter's shoes, so I don't know. But from my standpoint, if I was there, being, my viewpoint, which is I like to rock the boat. That's why I support certain candidates. That's how I would look at it. Is I wish he'd have just looked at it differently and decided, I'm going to do what I can to get Camacho out, get Moylan in.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's my two bits for the day.
Very
on
good.
the topic.
Appreciate that. There's a lot of common ground that I have with you there, and I understand where you're coming from. And this is the conversation that I hope everybody is having. Calm, collective, and at the same time, dangerous.
Yeah,
that's our
exactly.
Carl.
And I just want to compliment you guys again. You have, good chemistry. You're both, intelligent guys, and you have intelligent banter back and forth. And you make me think. You keep me engaged. Which is something you and Bob did. So I appreciate that. Very good.
Bob is the beacon. Thank you very much, Carl, for the kind words too. All right.
We'll talk later. Bye-bye.
Have a great day. All right, that was our Carl with his words of wisdom and his take. Let's flesh it out at the elections, and we'll see what happens with what GEC says on the 23rd. You know what? I was going to talk about the budget back and forth just to read these articles, but Lee Weber had his opinion piece in the PDN, and a lot of what our Carl talked about are these questions that Lee Weber asked, and what's good about this is that he's not really directing you in a way you can see some of his of Lee Weber's preferences in the way he formed some of the questions, but these are questions that he has posed in his column that we should all be asking ourselves. Do we want to keep going with the status quo? And the status quo is the same kind of candidates and the same kind of people in office. Are we going to vote because of familiarity only, not of name and not of record, or even of platform? Because a lot of times the familiarity of name gets you in there. And this is not to knock candidate Chris Barnett's abilities, but he has a huge jump in the election, being a household name, so to speak, and he's worked hard to get that household name, from what I understand. And but I'm going to say that helps a lot. That helps a lot with a lot of the candidates if people already know who you are.
Well, Lee Weber is entitled to his opinion and also his perspective on how he thinks the demographics break down on for people who go to vote, and who's to say that the people who are voting on familiarity, name recognition, are not placing their hopes and confidence in people that are less experienced as a matter of purpose,
I'll say it, so it goes. I'm going to say that's how most of it goes. I mean, we all want to talk about the issues, and we all want to say these are what the platforms are. But when it comes down to it, a lot of it has to do with popularity, and that's how these campaigns go. Who's the loudest, who has the longest. What is that called that everybody loves to go into that little drive and block traffic and everything, and who has the bigger podium, and that's what it comes down to sometimes, most of the times, on those optics. But I would submit that sometimes these voters really don't know what they're voting for except for the name and the familiarity. And if I'm wrong, so be it, but that's why we have sometimes these horrible legislations and these horrible administrations.
Well,
I mean,
years ago
just look at our national executive branch right now. That was based on a derangement and not based on his abilities. Right?
50 years ago, people voted here in Guam, voted by family blocks. The family was committed to voting Republican, and they voted Republican. Didn't matter what the qualifications were of the candidates. They voted blackjack, 21. And so, but was that wrong? No, it was the preference of the voters. It was the way the voters understood their role as citizens. And even now, you could have 95% of the people voting on issues only, objectively thinking, academically, researched, but the difference will be the 5% who are voting on simple familiarity, preference, and then they will be the ones to go in.
We won't really know too much because how much do the voters actually come out and say on how they voted? I think
better polls.
Yeah. But let's just go with I'm gonna read this column because I think it's a good column. If anybody else wants to put out their version of questions they should be asking and voting, I encourage you to do so. But Lee Weber did his, and here we go. As we continue to work our way ever closer to the general election, and you look at the candidates for gubernatorial, senatorial, and attorney general positions, now potentially 3 people, incumbents and challengers, what are you looking for? Have you made a list of the government and candidate failings that you expect them to rectify and maintain? Or are you happy with the status quo? Have you taken the time to look at what is needed in the areas of public safety, public health and social services, public utilities, as well as public education? Were the things accomplished in these areas during the current administration worthwhile, and did they really meet your expectations and our community needs? Or did they fall short? And if so, in what way? Do those running for office have concrete, realistic plans to repair what is broken and improve what is weak to make it better and more acceptable for our entire island community? Or are you looking to candidates as officialdom that will only fulfill the requirements of the political position? Wouldn't it be better to be looking beyond that for candidates that will not only repair but maintain fixes to the myriad of repetitive and perennial problems that have been facing our community for far too many years? Do you plan to gauge your favorite candidate, but what they claim their opponent hasn't done, can't, or won't do? Or are you planning to cast your vote based on what current candidates have done to make Guam a better place for us all? Candidates will try to divert your attention away from their failures and weaknesses, pointing out their competitors' inadequacies, rather than showing you exactly what they have accomplished during their own time in office, or in too far many cases, have failed to accomplish. Or better yet, they will very likely work to convince you to vote for them because of what they managed to do for you personally by giving you back your own hard-earned tax dollars or free federal tax dollars.
COLA.
Some of which may have been given to you directly in the form of pay for not coming to work, grants, or outright gifts. But wouldn't the same have been done by anyone else who held that office and had access to those funds? Why didn't they supply you with a job that also happened to beautify our island at the same time, thereby giving you a sense of accomplishment and a few extra dollars at the same time? Another good question is, what have they done personally with their own time, money, and effort to make Guam a better and safer place for us all? That will realistically give you a more accurate indication of what they are made of as individuals and will more than likely accomplish if elected into public office. What about feeling safe while walking in your own neighborhood, in a store parking lot, or in your village at night? How many people do you know who have had family members involved in thefts, assaults, illegal drugs, or other crimes? What experiences have you had in dealing with the growing number of homeless individuals on a daily basis as you go about your daily lives with your family? What sort of promises are politicians making to fix these problems if you agree to elect or re-elect them? And do those promises match their own history? Again, concentrate in the areas of public health and social services, public education, public safety, and public utilities. Have you really closely compared candidate claims against their actions? Are they realistic and really possible to accomplish based on what you know about these candidates, their proven capabilities and work history? In short, they really do what they claim will be done for new and existing candidates alike? For existing ones, have they actually accomplished what they claimed would be done when you elected them 2 or 4 years ago? Finding the results or failures is actually easy if you take the time to look around. As an example, have water and wastewater services improved? Has the water pressure, quality, and service at your home or business really improved? Are there fewer contaminated beaches? What has actually been done to make these things better? Do you still receive near daily water outage notices on your cellular phone? What have the people current in public office done to actually improve these 2 services during the time they have been in office? Look around. Ask your friends and neighbors what their experiences have been in these areas. It is time that we as an island community stop voting our emotions, familiar connections, and begin voting for people who will actually work diligently in all areas to improve our overall quality of life for every man, woman, and child on Guam. Promises are cheap and actions speak much louder than words. Remember, when the body is stressed, it tends to break down, and the body has a hard time lying. And his tag is always Esta. And questions, and those questions are, I'm not going to say they're loaded, but there's a twinge of a bias in some of the way the questions are formed. But it is, you're right, Daryl. There was a lot of family voting blocks, and that's why people still put their familiar names on signs to let you know who you should be voting for, because this is the family. But again, ultimately, in the voting booth, nobody knows. Nobody knows who you voted for. I mean, yes, you might have to campaign because your Pari or Mali or your Nino and Nina is running for office. You have to be present there. But again, once you get into that booth, that's your vote and your vote only. And what are you going to do with it? I used to think also, and this is going to be controversial to a point, I used to think everybody should be voting, get everybody out there, register everybody. But sometimes listen to some people who just are frivolous with their vote. I sometimes want to say, if you don't know what's going on, if it really doesn't matter to you, and if you haven't done your due diligence, sometimes I wish you would stay home, because I want people to be serious about their voting. And ask questions, keep asking questions, and keep looking at what it is that you're voting for. One thing that I do want to stress, and it was pointed out to me early on when I started voting here on Guam, is you don't have to apply all 15 of your votes if you don't want to vote all 15 or give 15 votes to everybody. If you only have 5, if you only have 10, if you only have 1, that's fine, because that also is making a statement. That's also voting. You don't have to fill in all 15. You cannot put in 16. That's truth. That'll invalidate your ballot. I think it invalidates your entire ballot if you put 16 or 17 legislatures in, and you have a clean ballot for all the other offices. Ask questions. Questions are good, and it doesn't mean that you have the answer. Sometimes there's a question behind the question. You're listening to Tall Tales. My name is Jose Martinez. We're going to go to the 7th inning stretch, and when we come back, we'll have Frenchie on the line. Don't go away.
Viva! The Guam Chamber of Commerce celebrates its 98th anniversary at the Hyatt Regency Guam, September 24th, 2022. This year's theme, Purple Rain. Its membership comprises many corporations, large and small entrepreneurs, women-owned and veteran-owned businesses, and nonprofit organizations. Their contributions make Guam an excellent place to live, work, and play. The Guam Chamber also salutes many of its members for celebrating milestone anniversaries, aged 25 to 75 years. Let's congratulate the Guam Chamber of Commerce and its members on celebrating its 98th anniversary. Be back!
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training, every morning on The Ray Gibson Show.
Does your physical workplace have an impact on the mental outlook of workers, their overall job satisfaction, and their productivity? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll talk about that and what you might want to do about it. It's The Extra Point, here on 93.3.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point by Jerry Roberts at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts on The Ray Gibson Show on 93.3 The Point.
Crazy. We are at the bottom of the 7th. We have 2 innings left, as Bob likes to say, and he explained why he said there's 2 innings left, because this is his game. There's only 1 inning in the 7th. You are listening to Tall Tales with Jose Martinez on 93.3 FM. It is 5:33 And we have Frenchie on the line who wants to opine on Weber. Good afternoon, Frenchie.
So let's go out to the ball game. Yeah. Yeah, I think Lee Weber once again is right on target. I think what basically he's telling us is don't be distracted by all the hoopla around us and see what the candidates have really, the ones that are leaving office, what have they really done for us over the last 4 years or the last 2 years for the senators. And have they fulfilled their promises? Have they done a difference in your daily life? And on a lot of those issues, the answer, unfortunately, is no. And so, we need to do our due diligence to look for people that will do the job. And unfortunately, that brouhaha with Pete Santos and McNish is a catastrophe for our democratic system here on the island because it distracts us from the real issues that Lee Weber is talking about. And if, the logic, like, as I said yesterday, the logic from Pete Santos is totally illogical. Basing is the fact that 4 years ago, Doug had a terrible result against Lewin. You cannot compare the two at all. 4 years ago, very few people knew who Lewin was, except that he's a fairly good-looking guy with a nice smile that most people would love to have as a son-in-law. But now he has a record, and it's not a good one. It's a record of failure and a record of trying to hide things that the governor has done against the law. And this is a problem. And 4 years ago, Doug was also the victim of a very low turnout for the conservative people on the island who did not like the ticket, the GOP ticket, because of the Tenorio shenanigans. And a lot of people that I know didn't go to vote. And Doug was one of the victims of those people not showing up to vote for the GOP ticket, even though it's a nonpartisan thing. I mean, most of the people that are going to go vote for Doug Moylan are going to be fairly conservative. They are not going to be bleeding heart socialists. So we know that. Now, at the same time, this year is totally different. So I think you're going to see a lot of conservatives because of the life issue, because of Lou's record on that issue, and other things, and also, frankly, the dismal record of the governor, who basically only leads, like they said this morning on the show, only is even trailing somebody that didn't even campaign in number of votes. When she spent $1 million, she's trailing the senator in number of votes received. So the race are not close, and I think that's why it's going to get nasty. And really, Peter is the spoiler here, and he will be responsible if there is a fallout where Lewin gets reelected, because he is a spoiler for the benefits of Lewin. And if it's for the benefits of Lewin, by extension, it's going to be for the benefits of Lulian Guerrero Cook. Because she certainly is the first person that does not want an AG black dog, because of the procurement shenanigans that we saw during the pandemics that Lewin tried to bury in this weird lawsuits suing things that don't exist. And we know that if Doug is elected, the first thing he's going to do is go to BJ Cruz's office and say, "What do you have for me?" Because she went nuclear on BJ when BJ released his findings, and BJ's office did a good job. They even tried to cut his budget because he was doing too good of a job. So we know the governor really doesn't want Doug as an AG, and that in itself is a good reason to vote for Doug. The other thing, of course, and it's the 800-pound gorilla in the room with Lou, is her huge conflict of interest with the Bank of Guam, who gets all the deposits from Gov Guam and is also controlling the retirement fund for Gov Guam employees. And the media has totally occulted this thing, and she brushes it off like, oh, well, I put everything in a fund and I'm not involved. When she goes to barbecues with her family, any of you believe that she doesn't talk about what the money is being done at the Bank of Guam? If there is any of you, please contact me, because I have a steel tower for sale for you in Paris. It's a huge conflict of interest. It's really, nobody wants to touch it because they're afraid of Lou, because they know how nasty she gets. And she does get very nasty. We see it on the Friday thing when she attacks the senator for that law that she gets very
She passed
personal.
anyways, yeah.
and so just for that, this thing, I do not know. Now, Peter pretends that both campaigns contacted him, but he doesn't show any proof of it, and we have only his word for it. And right now, in my book, his word is weighing less and less by the day, because it's very murky for his reasons. And like Carl mentioned earlier in his call, he gets very personal. He did that with Sam Nicholas. Now he's doing it with McNitch. He gets very personal and very, I don't know if it's not a racial thing. More and more, the alarm bells in my mind are starting to ring, because some of the things he said, and the other thing where Lou, Lou is involved, it's with the Guam Bar Association. She has a lot of pull in there. And then they already have a seat for him for the debate, for Pete, even before. I mean, this is very suspicious. I understand that the defense attorneys will not want to have Doug as an opponent, because they're going to have to work hard for the money, unlike what they do with Lewin. They are destroying his prosecution teams on almost every case in the last 6 months. So, so we'll see. But frankly, Lee Weber was right on target. It is a huge distraction. We understand that some political people do not want Doug to win, because he is going to be demanding that people justify the actions that they are taken. I understand that some defense attorneys are not going to want Doug, but to me, that's as many arguments to vote for him. So that's my point of view.
What's interesting is I don't ever recall, since I've been on this island 2006, 7, 8, it's kind of back and forth. I was back and forth before I was permanently here in 2008. The AG's race ever been this
contentious?
Contentious, this talked about as much. We've had attorney generals be elected in, and it was like, okay, they're elected, and it was almost like forget about it. But what makes this race different? Is it because Doug Moylan? Is it because Levin Camacho? Or is Pete Santos been applying
of Doug.
things? Yeah.
Doug is making a lot of people that do not have a clear conscience nervous, because they know if he's elected, he's going to take names and he's not going to back down from investigating things that are very strange, like looking at who has been buying land around the proposed future hospital.
Right.
There is a lot of shenanigans going, a lot of people that have a lot of big money involved, and they do not want to see Doug. And to me, it's, like I said earlier, it's more arguments to vote for Doug, because he will be for the people and not for the little mafias that are at Adelup and in other places.
Very cool. It's man, it's interesting. I'm looking forward to. I still want to talk about this because it's interesting. I'm looking forward to a new turn. I'm interested to know what's going to be coming up next week. Are we not going to be talking about the gubernatorial race, which I think is equally challenging and controversial? We have an incumbent who ran contested in her primary, and we have another former governor running. And if I'm not mistaken, we haven't had any former governors run successfully a third term on Guam. I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, I think it would be her first.
This would be a first also.
I'm not quite sure, but I think it would be her first.
Right.
And he's also, apparently he has grown up from when he was a governor as well, and so has Doug. They both made quite a few mistakes, what you would call useful mistakes when they were in office. And I think I don't want to use the word because it's so cliche, but I don't think they are changed men, but they have mature. They have got some miles under their belt.
Well, Frenchie, I thank you for your call. We got a couple of people in the green room I want to get to, and
I'll listen carefully.
As always, great call. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Carl, we're going to go to drive-through Jack first because you are on the second round. So drive-through, you have the floor.
Jose.
I don't know why I call you drive-through. You're Jack.
You can call me drive-through. That's my government name, I guess, from now on.
There you go.
But Jose, can you see? No, wait. I think we're missing the main point, and I think we need to remember what primaries are for. Primaries here in the U.S. are built specifically for political parties, and I think we got the message when during midstream. I think the local DNC tried to change the ballot, didn't they? They tried to change the conditions of what was going to happen. What goes on the ballot, who goes on the ballot, how to exit the primaries and stuff like that. So the question you need to ask is why is the AG on there when it's a non-partisan office? And if it is on the primary, I mean. What's the purpose of that? There's two of them. They're both going into the general, but still, the Attorney General has no business, the office of the Attorney General, since nonpartisan, has no business being on a primary ticket.
Ron McNitch kind of explained the reason why is because during the discussion of how we're going to elect an attorney general, they wanted a majority and not a runoff. So in order to have a majority, you would have to whittle down the candidates to at least two, so that one has more votes than the other, and that's why there's a primary. As many candidates can run for attorney general, and it gets whittled down to two candidates for the general. And I hear you on the nonpartisan point, because that does get confusing, and why they have it on a separate ballot.
No. Well, if that's true, if your logic is true, why don't they have it for the other nonpartisan offices? It's just the attorney generals.
That's a good question,
if
but
true,
that's
what you're saying is true.
Yeah.
Why isn't it?
Is there another
election? I mean, if you approve for this judge, why not just let it be in the primary? Why does it have to appear in the general?
Good question, and I think
the reason being is because
There's another caveat. That's because it's I don't know if the word is specialized, or you can't just have anybody run for attorney general, and I think that's the reason why they have it there. As far as the other offices. The public auditor maybe, but that's in the primary also, isn't it?
No, I'll tell you why. You why.
That's a good question then, Jack.
People that put this law together were lawyers and members of the GEC. And lawyers, as we know, they're either obtuse or cunning. It makes no sense, and I think they're walking back their statement because the way they presented it is, well, we wanted to make the decision easier for the voter.
Got it.
Again, blaming the voter.
Mm-hmm.
The voter isn't smart enough to determine,
You're giving too much credit for the voter.
Yeah, it's always the voter's fault. It's voters' apathy. That's why not enough people didn't show up. We need the attorney general to be on this primary because the people that vote in the primary, they're not that smart. So what we do is we pick the people. We're whittling. We're not talking about qualifications here. You're not talking about qualification. You're talking about a popularity vote here. So I take voting serious. It's the general election is once in 2 years or 4 year periods as a sovereign person that you could go in and make a decision. That one day, it used to be one day, November 2nd. Now they expanded it. It doesn't help the GOP anyway. It only helps Democrats. That kind of expansion of elections, instead of it being that one specific day, is stretched so far thin. It just benefits the Democrats. And another thing is that if you're an American, you understand why the American Revolution was fought, to get away from bloodlines.
Yeah.
But yet, that's a theme that seems to be running through this island. My family, but wait a second, man.
But you know what? I always say that as a joke, and like to differentiate island politics from what happens in the States. But I've also been in very small rural areas where they voted like that because families are prominent in smaller areas like that. But Jack, I have to go to
in the presidential, we voted 2 Bushes in, right?
Well, that has to do with the machinery, right?
But the main thing is that can't be an excuse, and we can't keep on calling the voters they're not smart enough.
Right.
No, that's why we have to do this process this way because it's a special. That makes 0 sense at all. That makes absolutely 0 sense at all.
Except to lawyers.
Except to lawyers.
To the lawyers and those to the GC. It gives them a job,
Well, I'm being advised by my attorney, Jack.
What a primary is, the primary is specifically for parties. And the general election, that's where you go ahead and you hash it out. And if there needs to be a runoff, that makes sense.
Right.
Nobody hears of a runoff on a primary.
Well, we got to go. I got to go to Churchill Downs, Jack. That's what my attorneys are telling me.
Okay.
My circle, and I pay them a very small retainer. So thanks for calling in. It's good to hear from you, Jack. We're going to go to Churchill Downs, and then when we get back, we'll have a second ride from our Carl, the most dangerous man. Don't go away. Tall Tales here on 93.3 FM.
Come try Guam's original Chamorro restaurant with Pica's best 5 years running. Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Experience Chef Peter's candied salmon over scallion coconut rice, octopus tenacta, Chamorro platter, and their award-winning gourmet hamburgers. Or if you're looking for something healthy, try their keto-friendly menu. Come and enjoy Mezcla's half-a-day service at their Hagåtña and Grand Plaza Tumon location. Call their Hagåtña location at 479-2652 for reservations.
Gas is expensive, so let the bank come to you. Through our remote deposit capture, you can deposit your checks into your account from your phone. And with our Dynamite Bank Pacific Visa debit card, you can use your money anytime, anywhere. It's the perfect combo.
Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Crank it up.
That is the call, the final stretch. Tall Tales here on KUSG 93.3 FM. My name is Jose, not Bob Klitzkie. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, Bob Klitzkie is on sabbatical. He will be returning in a number of weeks. Right now you have me, and you had no choice in the matter. There's no election. There's no poll. I
Well,
guess
there's a poll.
There's a poll. Yeah, I'm watching the numbers on Facebook.
Careful, there are polls
Stop
everywhere.
going around. Stop leaving me. We have our Carl in the green room who wants to write again. He wants to repeat about repeat. Is that my? Wow, I'm spinning here.
Yeah, this is addictive, riding this merry-go-round.
Right.
It's like a drug, let me tell you. I just wanted to make one third observation that I didn't make the first time, and someone's probably already said it at some point, but sometimes I miss portions of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Forgive me. But your comment about why this seems to be a particularly contentious race between the two AGs, and I have a theory about that. We've seen what Governor Leon Guerrero has done.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that stood out is the checkpoints, which accomplish virtually nothing except make super long lines and make thousands of people very irritated. And it kept National Guard, Guam National Guard people occupied, telling us to wash our hands and stay 6 feet apart.
And it allowed us to make fun of the situation here on radio.
Yeah.
I'm grateful for that.
And the shutdown of the beaches, which I could not believe because even then I had some inkling about the importance of vitamin D. And so I just was in shock. Why are they doing this? And, of course, the endless extensions of these mandates that just seem to go on forever.
And the health emergency is still ongoing.
Yeah, and all these are exercises of political power. This coming term, if the governor is reelected, she will be a lame duck governor. During the first term, every politician's goal from the day they get into office is to get reelected. Period. Thomas Sowell has observed that. Credit where credit is due. During lame duck portions of their term, they don't have to hold back nearly as much as a first term, or in the case of senators or representatives, they've got a lot of terms, but they may decide I'm retiring, so they are lame duck and they can pretty much vote whatever way, and they don't care. So that is one reason that I believe this is so contentious, because the conspiracy theorist in me believes there are plans that are being made, and the last thing that this administration or another administration would have is to have a conscientious AG that is trying to do their job, trying to enforce the laws that have been passed, to just gum things up. So I believe that is one of the reasons why, to some, as Pete pointed out, assuming he was correct, that he was contacted by representatives of these political parties, they do not want someone in there gumming up the works. They want pretty much a lapdog AG who will do as commanded. When they say jump, the response from the AG is, how high do you want me to jump?
Which defeats the purpose of the people, the voters, electing the AG.
Exactly. They are elected by the people, and they are there to provide a check against over-expansion of power by either the governor or the legislature. And that, you're right, that completely defeats the purpose. So anyway, that's my conspiracy theorist observation.
Very good. Thank you very much, Carl. And
right.
Thanks again for call number 2. Have a great one. All right, we're here at the tail end. I just want to talk real quick about this movie that Helen Millbrook had called in on Monday about. It's called Life Mark. It is a film on adoption. A young gentleman in high school turns 18 while he's still in school, and he gets a a message from his birth mother through the agency, the adoption agency that did the services, just to put the note in that if he wants to, she is willing to connect with him and talk about things. And it's based on a true story. Of course, the whole film is some fictionalized parts of the film, but there's a documentary called I Lived on Parker Avenue, and it's if you watch the documentary, you understand why it's titled that. 30-minute documentary that was on YouTube. It piqued the attention of a familiar name. A lot of people from a lot of Gen Xers would know, Kirk Cameron. I forgot his name on Growing Pains, but I know his last name was Cleaver. Cleaver? No. I don't even remember now. I just remember he was on Growing Pains. But and he got together with this group of producers named the Kendrick Brothers, and they made this film of this guy's life. It's called Life Mark. It's playing at GPO at 7 o'clock only tonight, and tomorrow night is the last night, 7 p.m. So I encourage you to go out there. It's a family film, and it's a feel-good film for our times right now. But right now, we are going to greet our president and say goodbye to this episode of Tall Tales. My name is Jose Martinez. Tune in tune in tomorrow for another edition of Tall Tales. Let's go, Brandon.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
The British begin a long farewell. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. Thousands of people paying their respects yesterday as the casket of Queen Elizabeth II was carried by hearse to Buckingham Palace for a final time. Later today, the Queen will be moved to Westminster Hall, the home of the British Parliament. Following a service there, the public will be invited to file past the coffin. Hundreds of thousands of people are expected to over the 4-day viewing period, which precedes the Queen's funeral on Monday. The White House was hoping inflation would be flat or lower last month thanks to falling gasoline prices. But contrary to analysts' predictions, the August Consumer Price Index showed inflation actually rose slightly last month. That means another big hike in interest rates by the Fed is virtual certainty. On Wall Street, the Dow suffered its worst loss in more than 2 years yesterday, plunging 1,276 points. NASDAQ dropped 632. The S&P 500 lost 177 points. But at the White House, a celebration to mark last month's passage of the spending bill the Democrats branded the Inflation Reduction Act.
The single most important legislation passed in the Congress to combat inflation and one of the most significant laws in our nation's history, in my view.
Despite the fact that many economists say it will not reduce inflation anytime soon. In Boston, an explosion at Northeastern University last evening.
And university spokesperson says a staff member was hurt after opening a suspicious package that detonated. Police are investigating whether or not this was some sort of hoax device. Staff member that was hurt, we're told that person suffered non-life-threatening injuries, was transported to an area hospital. That person is expected to be okay.
Reporter Drew Carides of Fox affiliate WFXT in Boston. The FBI now joining the police investigation and warning students and staff to be vigilant about packages they may receive. America is listening to Fox News.
Get all of your favorite Fox News podcasts ad-free on Apple Podcasts with Fox News Podcasts Plus. From Trey Gowdy, the Fox News Rundown, Will Kane, Brian Kilmeade, and so much more. Go to foxnewspodcasts.com for all the details. The Fox News Rundown, a contrast of perspectives you won't hear anywhere else. Your daily dose of news twice a day, featuring insight from top newsmakers, reporters, and Fox News contributors. Listen and subscribe now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com. New. From the Fox News Podcasts Network, Dana Perino, co-host of the 5 and America's Newsroom on Fox News Channel, returns to the world of audio with a new limited-time podcast, Everything Will Be Okay with Dana Perino. Building off the success of her best-selling book of the same name, Dana provides an unequaled brand of advice built on real-life experience and interviews experts and individuals that make a difference in the lives of others. Subscribe and listen now by going to foxnewspodcasts.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
A new report says crime was up in big cities during the first half of the year.
A survey by the Major Cities Chiefs Association shows crime continuing to rise across the country, comparing numbers through June 30th to the same time last year, where violent crime increased by 4.4%, robberies up 13%, aggravated assaults increased by almost 3% in major cities, including New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, and others. That tallied 4,511 murders in the first 6 months of this year, down from over 4,600 last year, though still almost 1,500 more murders than in the first half of 2019. Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
Mike Lindell, the MyPillow guy, says he was swarmed by FBI agents yesterday demanding his cell phone. Lindell has claimed in the past there was conspiracy to rig the last presidential election. A few more parts of the affidavit used to get the Mar-a-Lago search warrant have been unsealed, including that the feds subpoenaed and got surveillance footage from the storage area where the former president stored